la da 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 da, ya la da 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 da, ya la da 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 da, ya la la da da, ya la da 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 da, ya la da 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 da, ya la da 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 da, ya la la da da, ya la da la la da da, ya la da la la da da, ya la da la la da da, ya la la da da. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da.
Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. It is good to be with you on this Shabbat evening of Sukkot. As you see, I can't see the cantor too well, but I can see the sukkah here in front of me. As our ceremonial sukkah, there's also one up on the roof that we're going to invite anybody who would like to later to go up to for shaking lulav and etrog. But this is the representation of joy in our midst. Sukkot is the holiday we are to be joyful. And I know for many of us, this has been a very hard week. It's a week of tragedy and loss for a lot of us in our community. And yet, we're still supposed to find joy, which is not an easy thing to do. So let us take a moment right now to carve out a place in our hearts where we can find joy. No matter what brings us to the sanctuary tonight, when we begin our services and light our candles, let us enter into this period of rejoicing, to celebrate our heritage, to celebrate our tradition, to celebrate the joy of life and living, so that we may enter the Shabbat and this Chag with joy and love for one another.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My name is Zena Horn, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to Anshe Ameth Memorial Temple. The Festival of Sukkot is a celebration. May the blessings brought by Sukkot fill your home with happiness and your mind with contentment. Chag Sameach, a very happy Sukkot to everyone. Now let us feel the warmth of Shabbat as we invite Allison, Dan, Sarah, and Jessica Brown up to the bima to light the candles in honor of Jessica's bat mitzvah tomorrow. The blessings may be found on pages 2 and 3 of your prayer book. Mazel tov to Jessica and the entire Brown family. Shabbat Shalom.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Lachad Odi on pages 20 and 21.
Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat lekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat lekabela la la. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat lekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, pene pene Shabbat lekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmi'anu el ha'meyuchad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem ul tiferet v'litehila la la, Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, Penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki hi mekor ha'beracha, merosh mikerev nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila la la la. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzeim betoch ha'hafacha, Rav lach shevet be'emek ha'bacha, vehu yachamol alayich chemla. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Na'ari me'afar kumi, livshei bigdei tifartecha mi, al yad ben yishai ben talachmi, korva el nafshi ge'ala. Lecha lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha dodi, likrat likrat kala, penei penei Shabbat lekabela. Hit oreri Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevoshi velo tikal mima tishtochachi, Uma tehmi bach yechesu. Aniye ami v'nifneta irati la. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. V'hayulim shisa shosayik v'rachaku, Ko mevalayik yasisalayik Elohayik Tipsos chatan al kala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Yamin usmol tifrotzi ve'et daronai, Ta'aritzi al yad ish ben parti v'nismecha v'nagila. Hey, lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala,
We rise in either body or spirit.
Shalom ateret ba'la gam b'simcha u'v'tzola toch emunei am segula boi chala boi chala lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We continue on page 26 with Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei, B'chayechon u'b'yomechon u'v'chayer kol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala ובזמן קריב וימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא וימרו Amen.
We rise now in either body or spirit for the Baruch Hu on page 28.
Yada dai dai dai, 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 yada dai dai dai. Am I awake? prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Do you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai et HaMevorach le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yadadai-dai-dai, 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 yadadai-dai-dai.
Together on the bottom of page 31. This is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over?
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amchavta, Torah umitzvot, chukim umishpatim, otanu limadeta. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amchavta, Ahavat olam otanu limadeta. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta, Torah umitzvot, chukim umishpatim, otanu lemadeta. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amcha ahavta, Ahavat olam otanu lemadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu uvkumeinu, nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei todacha ub'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ahavat olam otanu limadeta. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nehege yomam v'layla. Ve'ahavatcha al ta'asir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch ata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Ahavat olam ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, yai da 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 da, ya da 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 da, yai da 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 da. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto le'olam, le'olam va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod, Shem Kevod Malchuto le'olam, le'olam va'ed. Yai da 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 da, ya da 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 da, Yai da dai da 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 dai dai. Yai da dai da 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 dai ya da dai 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 dai. Yai da dai da 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 dai dai.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
אמת ואמונה כל זאת, וקיים עלינו כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואין זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל עמו. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace.
Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי אנו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom, leshalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Na sfatai tiftach, na ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, Adonai, sfatai tiftach. Ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, sfatai tiftach. Ufi agid tehilatecha. Adonai, sfatai tiftach. Ufi agid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Chozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Atzurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'agivurot, umido melach, melech meimim מוסיף ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue our individual prayers silently through page 63, and when you're finished, you may be seated.
Shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom bimromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom bimromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom bimromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Oseh shalom bimromav u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel.
In our liturgy, Sukkot is referred to as Zman Simchatenu, the season of our rejoicing. As I mentioned to the Browns on Tuesday, I think there's no better Shabbat to have a bat mitzvah than on Sukkot with the sukkah here. And I'm not knocking any of the other people who had bar bat mitzvahs at other times during the years. But Sukkot is Zman Simchatenu, the time of our rejoicing. Each of the pilgrimage festivals has its own liturgical name. Passover is Zman Cherutenu, the season of our freedom. Shavuot is referred to as Zman Matan Toratenu, the season of giving of our Torah. The name attributed to Sukkot in the prayer book is the only one that comes from the Bible. It is derived from the Torah portion for the first day of Sukkot, in which we are commanded to rejoice before Adonai during the week of Sukkot. And while Simcha, rejoicing, is understood to be part of all three of the festivals, there appears to be an added dimension of Simcha for Sukkot, that you must find joy. Last week when I spoke to you about Sukkot, it felt as though we were living in a different world. I spoke about the joy of Sukkot, about rejoicing of the Chag, about what it is to put together a sukkah and to feel what it's like to sit in there and to eat in it. I spoke to you about how the holiday was to take us out of a world of pessimism and into one of hope. And then death came, and then death came, and then death came again, and then death came some more. Out of the tragic losses we have felt over this last week, I have received countless questions of, but Rabbi, what do you mean there's no Shiva during Sukkot? Or what do you mean Sukkot ends Shiva? I know it's Zman Simchatenu, but how do I rejoice when all I want to do is cry? Of course, you can't turn off your grief like a faucet. And yes, you all know the rabbinic line that enables us to still deliver eulogies during funerals on Sukkot. But that doesn't help with the pain. As of late, I have been thinking about the prayer from our High Holiday Liturgy, Avuna Tana Tokef, about the bit about being sealed in the book of life, and who shall live and who shall die, and who shall reach ripe age and who shall not. This past week, our community has said goodbye to 4 precious souls, either before or during Zman Simchatenu. They are and were Betty Tauber, Jake Bayer, Steve Gordon, and Willie Garson Pazamant. Who shall reach ripe age and who shall not? 2 of the 4 were older, but it was still before their time. And 2 of the 4 died far, far too young. And I believe many of you were thinking about the prayer as well, because many of you came to me to ask me about whether or not someone made it into the book of life if they died after Yom Kippur. I can't even tell you how many times this was asked of me this past week, particularly in the wake of Jake's death. He and Rabbi Glasser hadn't even made it to their first anniversary. The question that was asked was really not about whether or not he made it into the book of life for 5782, or if it still counts as 5781. It's really a question that attempts to make sense of something that is senseless. When I read the Unatana Tokef, I read it a slightly different way. For example, the text says, on Rosh Hashanah is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed. How many will pass away from this world and how many will be born into it? Who will live and who will die? Who will reach the ripeness of age and who will be taken before their time? Who by fire and who by water? I think you all know the prayer by heart. For me, It is not a prayer that tells us that what is about to befall us is etched out, that it's fate, that it's going to happen. To me, it's a prayer that reminds us that the world is random, that it's chaotic, that sometimes in great loss and tragedy, there is no sense, and that's just the way the world works. What gives me solace comes at the end of the prayer. At the end of the prayer it says, Uteshuva utefila utzdaka ma'avrin et roag zera. But through turn to the right path, teshuva, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. It doesn't say that doing those things alters the outcome one iota. Rather, it says these are the things that help you deal with loss and tragedy. Teshuvah, turning inward and examining your soul and your actions. Prayer, coming together in community to be lifted up by one another and to think about what our tradition tells us. And through tzedakah, righteous giving, that even in our lowest moments we can help lift others up, and in doing so we ourselves are lifted as well. What this prayer tells me is that there is no meaning in suffering, but there is tremendous meaning in how we encounter our suffering and how we encounter our losses. So often in our lives we dwell in a world of pessimism. Yes, it is the job of the Jew to live in a world of hope, but as you all know, you can live with hope and pessimism at the same time. We are conflicted as Jews. But we need to live in a world of hope, particularly in the dark shadow casted by the pandemic, financial uncertainty in the world, and of tragic loss. Perhaps the commandment for Sukkot to live with nothing but joy is purely aspirational. Perhaps this was our tradition telling us that it's not healthy for us to live in a world solely of pessimism and doubt and despair and darkness. And perhaps Sukkot is our mechanism for pulling us into the light. One of the readings that's traditional for Sukkot is that of Ecclesiastes. You might all remember it as the bird's song, Turn, Turn, Turn. For everything there is a season, and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, on and on and on. Our holiday of Sukkot reminds us that no matter how dark it is, bright skies will come again. All things pass and all things change, but ultimately we will be okay, for we are with community. Perhaps this year, the command to be joyful is truly one of aspiration rather than reality. For some, for others, it's purely joy. While there's a time for dying, there's also a time for living. And while there's a time for crying, there's also a time for laughter. And a time for speaking, for telling amazing stories about the ones we love so deeply. And may we tell these stories that inspire sacred living. May we tell stories that inspire tears of joy, and may we tell stories that help us live in a time where we can confirm that those we love and lost will always be with us, and that any time can be Zman Simchatenu, our season for rejoicing. And may those who have much, much, much to rejoice during Sukkot, as you do, may your joy lift all of us up so that we can celebrate Sukkot, Zman Simchatenu together. May we be able to live with the sadness that some of us feel in our hearts, but also remember the joy those we love gave to us, so we may pass those memories, those legacies, and those joys onto others. Amen.
Amen. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time of love, a time of hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven.
Shabbat Shalom once again. Just a few announcements before we conclude our service. In light of Zaman Simchatenu, we have a bunch of exciting things still coming with Sukkot, even though we're almost towards the end. This Sunday, September 26th at 2 o'clock, the Women's Spirituality Group welcomes you back to the Sukkah. That's at 2 o'clock. Space is limited, so please RSVP to Barb Peabody. And they're still hoping, weather permitting, to be up in the Sukkah, shaking lulavs or in Etrog, or they're going to be in Lippman Hall directly underneath the Sukkah, dry shaking lulav in Etrog and having a full program. Also, our final Sukkot and Yizkor service is Tuesday, September 28th at 10 a.m. You can join us in the Beit Midrash, or we'll stream it on YouTube. And then that evening at 6 o'clock is Simchat Torah, where we'll be consecrating our youngest students and figuring out some way of doing a COVID-safe dancing with the Torah, which we still can't quite seem to figure out. But we'll have something planned by Tuesday night, I promise. Also, next week on the Wednesday at 11, Rabbi Miller is hosting a lunch and learn, and on Saturday, October 2nd, we're hosting our first Rabbinic Forum of the year, where we're bringing back our one of our former rabbinic interns, Rabbi Shira Gluck, who will have a conversation with me on the changing ways that young Jews relate to synagogues. It'll be in person and on Zoom. Lots going on, so make sure you check out our program book and bulletin and weekly emails to catch up on everything that's going on. At the conclusion of our service, we will be doing Kiddush Emotzi up here on the bima so that those at home can join with us. Afterwards, we'll have an opportunity to go up to the sukkah, if that's not rain I'm hearing, or it could be the AC, one or the other. If there's no rain, we'll be up in the roof shaking lulav and etrog for anybody who would like to come up. If not, I believe there is a special oneg provided by the Bat Mitzvah family, by the Browns, in honor of Jessica's Bat Mitzvah tomorrow, which will be at 10:45, and we're so excited to have that moment. On this Shabbat Eve, as we join together as one congregation to celebrate creation and the joy of life and living, we turn our thoughts to those in our community for whom life has become precarious because of health or hospitalization. O God of healing, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers together with the prayers of those who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen them, the healing powers you place within us all, and guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and their families, and may they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Mishaberach avotenu v'imotenu, hu yivarech et hacholim, rufuat hanefesh urufuat haguf, hashta'a b'ga'ala v'zman kariv v'nomar, Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless those in need of healing. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, as together we say, Amen.
Mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. The renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We continue now on page 282 as we rise, neither body or spirit for Elenu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved, each of us, for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו
It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, and each one of us is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, and whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. With hearts that ache and are saddened, we name now those whom death has recently taken from us, those whose families are observing the Shloshim. We remember Arnold Cohen, husband of Barbara Cohen, brother-in-law of Bob Davis. We remember Natalie Ellen Kazin, sister of Hillary Friedman, sister-in-law of Joel, aunt of Jody and Michael. We remember Jerry Grunfest, husband of Sandra Grunfest, father of Leslie and Robert, father-in-law of Ricardo and Colleen, and grandfather of Elizabeth, Joshua, and Abigail. We also remember Morden Leventhal, brother of Linda Peck. We remember Betty Tauber, wife of Jay, mother of Mark and Howard and Lisa, mother-in-law of Becky and Nikki and Skip, and grandmother of Ben and Chloe, Sabrina and Ben, Josh and Ethan, Jared and Aiden. We remember Jake Bayer, husband of Rabbi Maya Glasser, son of Karen and Sean Bayer. And remember Steve Rosenbaum, husband of Arlene, father of Laura and Michelle, father-in-law of Ira and Andrew, grandfather of Jared and Ryan, Logan and Evan, and uncle of Mark and Angie, Leah, and Josh. And we also remember Willie Garson Pazmant, stepson to Ann Pazmant. On this Shabbat, we also recall those dear ones who died at this season in years past, and whose names we record with love in our service booklet this evening and up on our screens. Their names are forever bound to our hearts and are permanently inscribed throughout our building. And if you are here to say Kaddish for a loved one, whether here or at home, I invite you to say their names as I look out to our congregation, either here or at home. And if names are overlap or if we can't hear them, the one who needs to hear them all will hear them all. Zikranam livracha, may all their names and memories only be for a blessing. I invite all the mourners, if able, to rise for Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, on page 294. Yitgadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divrach yerotei v'yamlich malchutei v'chai chon v'yomechon v'chai dekol Beit Yisrael. Bagala vizman kariv v'yamru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach leolam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashah richu. Leila min ko birchata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata damiran b'alma v'yamru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al ko Yisrael v'yamru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al ko Yisrael v'yamru amen. May the source of peace bestow peace to all who mourn, and may we be a source of comfort to all who are bereaved, as we say, Amen.
We close our service this evening with the singing of Ein Adir, found on page 328. We rise. Ein Adir k'Adonai, ve'ein Baruch kevein Amram, ein Gedola k'Torah, ve'ein Darshanea keYisrael. Mipiel u'mipiel yevorach kol Yisrael. Mipiel u'mipiel yevorach kol Yisrael. Ein hador k'Adonai ve'ein vati kevein Amram. Ein zaka k'Torah ve'ein chachamea keYisrael. Mipiel u'mipiel yevorach kol Yisrael. Mipiel u'mipiel yevorach kol Yisrael. אין טהור כאדוני, ואין יחיד כבן עמרם, אין כבירה כתורה, ואין למדניה כישראל. מפיאל ומפיאל יבורך כל ישראל, מפיאל ומפיאל יבורך כל ישראל. אין פודה כאדוני ואין צדיק כבן עמרם, אין קדושה כתורה ואין תומכיה כישראל. מפיאל ומפיאל יבורך כל ישראל, מפיאל ומפיאל יבורך כל ישראל.
Those mums always get in the way.
ויהי ערב, ויהי בוקר, יום השישי. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית. כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר נציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
And before our bat mitzvah concludes our service with Motzi, I just want to add a thank you to Mark Sicardo for the sukkah he built for us 4 years ago. That's still standing beautifully, and thank you for putting it back together every single year. All right, bat mitzvah girl, Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, chamotzi lechem min ha'aretz.
Amen.
Bruchim atem b'voachem, bruchim atem b'tzeitechem. Blessed were you when you came into this place. Blessed may you be as you go forth. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom. Chag Sameach. Good, good. That's great. Chag Sameach. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. David Levine. Can I ask you a favor? Can you carry these things down to my car? You can? Thank you. For me, it's I have a pre-existing tragedy. I just made that up. Didn't you owe me money or something?